Okay, I know some people have probably gone for a little break and they'll come back, but I just wanted to wind these sessions up with what we are calling a fourth talk. It's really not a talk. I just wanted to make sure that we can tie the loose ends and perhaps give us a vision of how and where we are going to go from here. After which, we're going to spend some time in prayer. Vince talked about this silence that we need to let the Spirit talk. So we are going to expose the Blessed Sacrament in a few minutes after the little talk that I'm going to give. And then read the story of the disciples on the road to Emmaus. And let that seep into the deepest part of our being and just be in silence for a few minutes. After which, Father Len is going to bless a few objects that we have here, and we're going to take this with us, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. So you will receive this by our three deacons who will be present here, and we'll give this out to you. This is a takeaway. After which we will have the exposition and the benediction. So that's where we will end today, okay? But let me try to bring this all to some form of a conclusion. The Archdiocese has been at ways of reorganizing the Archdiocese and the parishes in a way that addresses the needs of the communities and the availability of priests as well. For quite a few years, we have existed as pastoral regions. And Father Len will tell you that he was part of that process of planning. And it played its part. Most of our parishes were in partnership with other parishes, and some of them very fruitful, some of them not very. In any case, there was a plan, and here we are in this. So this is not something new. This is not something that was sprung upon us. We knew this was coming. The change and the radical nature, this new paradigm of family of parishes, whatever it means, we knew it was coming. It's just that we didn't know it would come in the way that it did and how quickly it came. So we're in kind of a bit of a shock effect. So where do we go from here? One of the things that Father Len and I and Father Uriel, who's in Mexico, one of the things that we have in mind is to make sure that we do give people an opportunity to express their feelings, and today was one of those days. This is what it means to give people the opportunity to. Father Satish didn't cause this. It feels like Satish caused this, because I sit at 5 parish council meetings. We sit at 5 finance commission meetings. We sit with every group, and feels like I did it. We didn't do it. I'm just trying to journey with you and manage my own anxiety and my own fears and my own weaknesses and my own lack of understanding of where this is going. So I'm walking with you, even though it feels like I am also on the other side, trying to make sure the process moves forward. So I'm between you, and I hope that I walk both these journeys like the disciples did. I need to walk with the Archdiocese, but I also need to walk with our people. And so this is the challenge that we as priests have, and the pastors have as well. So what we did thus far is have town hall meetings, the Beacons of Light town hall meetings. We did one before the family of parishes were announced. St. Mary's and St. Helen and Immaculate was part of that town hall. We had a second town hall meeting after the 5 parishes were announced, and we all came together. We also had one for the Hispanic community. And our hope was to communicate as much as possible. The archdiocesan planned to reorganize. And the archdiocese had its own survey from all, I don't know how many of you took part in the survey. I myself felt that that survey personally could have been a lot more inclusive, but it is what it is. The way I put it is, when COVID happened, each parish had to do something to manage COVID, and none of the solutions were good solutions because no matter what you did, somebody was mad, right? And we were all mad together. This reality is something like this. There were archdioceses in the country that people learned in their bulletin that the parish was going to be closed down. And today I hear people say to me, just tell us we are closed and we are happy with it. We'll go wherever we have to go. And the reason why we did it this way is because we've learned that just closing parishes top down was not a good idea. People walked away from not just the parishes, but they walked away from Catholicism. So the reality is such of people in the pew and the priests that no solution is a good solution, except we believe that there is a stranger in our midst who walks with us, and that's Jesus. And the Holy Spirit is going to help us to somehow figure this out. There's something beyond us that is at work. I mean, even today, there are tears in my eyes of people sitting and simply, from the 5 parishes, just simply sitting and listening and talking. I think the Spirit of God is active here today, and we need to recognize all the time. So the beacons of light is what it is. Not the best solution, but this is what we have to deal with right now. So 2 town hall meetings to communicate what we have done thus far. This retreat is an event for the family of parishes. This is how we are going to listen to each other. If you want to know what's going to happen in the future, this is a good indication. Where do we go from here? Organizationally, structurally, the Archdiocese has asked us to constitute a pathway group, a pathway team. What does that mean? People from all the 5 parishes who will in some way will just do some basic things to make this move forward. And the 4 business managers of our parishes are going to form that pathway team. And the reason why we chose those 4 business managers is because they know every aspect of the functioning of the parish. So they know the finances, they know school, they know staff, they know what. So the business managers of the 4 parishes have been formed into a path. Now this is only a temporary group that is going to help us just move forward. For example, very soon, starting November, or before Thanksgiving, each parish bulletin is going to have a page that's going to let other parishes know of the events that are happening, to which we can all go back and forth, right? It seems like an easy task, but believe me, who is going to be responsible, from whom does the information come, who processes it, who actually then organizes it into a bulletin that makes it look like a good page. These are all small things, but they are big things. Only when you sit around the table, you figure out, you don't want to do this haphazardly. Our hope was to start this by the end of this retreat, but it did not happen because it's not like the business managers have a plenty of time in their hands to do the next thing, right? So we're going to start that. So the first part of it is just making sure that our communities can share information with each other, right? We were going to advertise as many events, and people who want to go back and forth, they can do that. The next step is going to be forming a Families of Parishes leadership team. What does that mean? That means that leaders from all the 5 parishes and the 4 schools are going to form a parish council of the family of parishes. So we have 5 parish councils right now, individual parish councils. And at some point, probably within a year or so, we are going to form a leadership team, which is another word for that would be a parish council for the family of parishes. And it will be represented by all the parishes. And this is where bulk of the conversation and future discussions are going to happen about what this means to be. So honestly, just us three priests have no idea where this is going. I have no idea where this is going. Much of the discussion and changes thus far, you may feel, especially when it came to mass schedules and stuff like that, that if you have felt that that was not how decisions should have been made, and I agree with you, it's just that with 3 priests and 17 masses, it was hard to come to a conclusion that pleases everybody. However, having said that, all the other decisions that will be made in the future is going to happen with the family of, with the parish council of the family of parishes. That's how it's going to happen. There's no other way. So I want you to know that this idea of listening, it's not something that's a word that is being thrown away lightly. Father Len and Father Uriel and I are very, 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 very keen that it really is a participative process and that we all have a say in that, and leadership from the schools and the parishes are equally represented, all have a voice, and then we can discuss this together. So that is as much as I know at the moment. From there, we can take various aspects of the parish life and see how it can be spread out. So right now, our goal is not to say, how can the group that I belong to in my particular parish, how can I spread it everywhere? That's not where we are going right now. In other words, I love our athletics group, but how can I make that in all the parishes? That's not the purpose of this conversation. The conversation is that we are going to share as much information as possible, and when the leadership team is formed, that they are the ones who are going to spearhead how this is going to move forward. And that is where bulk of the decision making, no, I take that back, not decision making. The discussion and the recommendations and ideas are going to emerge and be made, finally, they might become decisions, right? They will become decisions. So that's the goal for the future. When we priests are, and we have been, Father Len and Father Uriel, Father Uriel has missed a couple of parish council meetings, but when Father Len and I have sat at parish council meetings, and we have had 5 of those already, I think, people ask us simple questions like, but Father, this Mass schedule, you have the 9 o'clock Mass at St. Helen and St. Anthony. And whoever says Mass after that has no time to meet the people or the people to meet the priest. They're heading to the next Mass, sometimes without even changing the vestments. I put the vestment on, don't change it, drive. Most people think that I'm heading to a circus. And I go and say Mass at the next, then where is the time to meet the people? And I have not been at some of these churches and Masses because I also do the Spanish Masses at 9 o'clock for the longest time, right? People are saying, how do we get to know you, Father? And then this whole thing emerged in my head. I'm going to do this because one of the parish councils said, well, could you put that on a piece of paper and share this with everybody? So I'm going to share this with you right now. I want you to imagine just for a moment that immaterial of where we worship, that our communities are very viable, strong, active communities. In other words, those things that we are good at in our 5 communities, that those continue to thrive. That we can be communities immaterial of how we worship or where we worship, but just for a moment imagine. Here's my dream. Last Easter Vigil, the people of 3 parishes came together to celebrate the Easter Vigil. There were 35 baptisms, 45 confirmations, and 800 people in the church. Easter Vigil for 3 hours. Just for a moment imagine that we decided that we are going to worship together. For a moment, imagine that all the choirs were singing together at one Mass. What would that sound like? Imagine that this church was packed, whatever church it is, was packed with people. Children were crying, so we had to tell them to shut up, right? We have masses, we needed so many Eucharistic ministers that we were running short of that. For a moment, just imagine what it would be to have us finally have a church full. And when people sing, the roof was going off. That we met people that we've never met before. And there were strong Bible study groups that would meet in your own communities and come back to worship together. Then the priest wouldn't be saying Mass and rushing off to the next Mass. Actually, you know what? I could stand there and shake your hands. You will get to know us and we will get to know you. We can have 5 donut Sundays after every Mass. But then in this neighborhood of whatever these boundaries of these parishes are, that we would be such a vibrant, strong, missionary community that people would say, and they will know we are Christians by our love. Can you for a moment imagine that? But we have to leave something behind to be able to latch on to that dream. If we can leave behind our boats and our nets, we can leave our Egypts behind and move to the promised land. If we can say we are Christians and Catholics first, and how can we be the best of that? That is where I believe the Spirit of God might be leading us. In other words, the Archdiocese has a structure and an organizational plan. You need that. But that's not where the life-giving force is. The life-giving force is on us trying to say to each other, let people know we are Christians by our love. And Sunday after Sunday, gathered together, bilingual masses, English masses, Spanish masses, doesn't matter, but just lively communities and no more empty pews at our Sunday masses, Saturday masses. Instead of struggling to do the things that we are doing, actually thriving at doing what we are called to do. It's just a vision in my head. We can do it. I pray that we will let the Spirit, let the structures be, let the organizational part be, but we let the Spirit lead us to the future. The people of Israel did not see the promised land before they walked and journeyed together. We are being called to journey together. We don't know where we are going to. We don't even know what families of parishes meet, but we can do it because the Spirit of God is with us. Because the stranger walks with us and appears at the breaking of the bread every Sunday. When you go back home, you have really something to share with the rest of the folks. 200 people from the 5 parishes were here. But if you went as the 2 by 2 that Jesus sent, 72, go to the schools, go to our parishes, and share the vision of what is the possibility. That's the best thing that you can do as a result of coming together here today. But if after this today we go back and are tied to that which holds us back, then it'll be that much more difficult for us to move forward. So this new paradigm that we have, this synodal church, this listening church, which Father Len and I and Father Uriel promised that it will be where all the discussions will happen. And if then as they lead us, if we can have the courage to move forward, the Spirit of God will lead us to the right place, I believe. So we entrust all this into God's holy hands as we expose the Blessed Sacrament now. But before we do that, I'm going to invite Father Len here, and he's going to bless. I'm going to talk about, you know what, these are actually, they're very simple. They're actually keychains. But I thought it symbolized, we always take them with us, right? So keychains of keys are always something we take with us, kind of symbolizing our journey together. And it is written, Discipleship Journeying Together, Family of Parishes Retreat 2022. So we're going to bless this, we're going to take this with us, and keep this with us, reminding of the call that God has given us to journey together. So here we are. Before I